So greetings, here we are again in my time of personal reflection that I share with you to keep myself accountable also and to get you stimulating in some religious thoughts. um, you know, even though I'm not a debater or so, but to keep us thinking about God. So, January 5th, our focus for today. Remember, we are catching up because um, I started this after January 1st. So, I'm trying to catch up and then I'll do them um, one every day in the evening session. So, we're on now to Genesis chapter 6. And Angus Bushan from this book. Remember, I'm following this book for myself and sharing, what the passage he has, but sharing my own reflection. Because he just puts the scripture, he doesn't really say anything except a few lines at the beginning. So now, his theme for January 5th is faith. So let me read about faith. We focus on the story of Noah, Noah, and his family in Genesis chapter 6, and the verses range between verses 10 to verse 22 in the New Living Translation. Genesis chapter 6. Noah was the father of 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now, God saw that the earth had become corrupt and was filled with violence. Wow. There's nothing new under the sun, because isn't that why we're here today? That there should be good governance, that there's too much corruption in the world, in the systems, in the countries, and we look around and we see that there's violence in almost every country that we know. Yeah. Nothing new in the world. So God said to Noah, I have decided to destroy all living creatures, for they have filled the earth with violence. Now remember, God is the creator. And while his creation had been good, suddenly with the entrance of sin into the world, then the earth went out of balance and was filled with violence and sin. So he says, I have decided to destroy all living creatures, for they have filled the earth with violence. Yes, I will wipe them all out along with the earth. So you're going to destroy all living creatures, birds, fish, everything that is breathing and living, including man. Build a large boat from cypress wood and waterproof it with tar inside and out. Then construct decks and stalls throughout its interior. Make the boat 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet high. Wow, this is large. The first cruise ship. Leave an 18-inch opening below the roof, all the way around the boat. Put the door on the side and build 3 decks inside the boat, lower, middle, and upper. Look, I am about to cover the earth with a flood that will destroy every living thing that breathes. Everything on earth will die, but I will confirm my covenant with you. So enter the boat, you and your wife and your sons and their wives. Bring a pair of every kind of animal, a male and a female, into the boat with you to keep them alive during the flood. Pairs of every kind of bird and every kind of animal and every kind of small animal that scurries along the ground will come to you to be kept alive. And be sure to take on board enough food for your family and for all the animals. So Noah did exactly as God had commanded. Now this is part 1. Tomorrow we'll deal with part 2, the flood, January 6th. But part 1 talks about faith. Now, remember from previous chapters, it said Rain was not falling. Rain had never fallen. Water was springing up from the ground to irrigate the ground. And here God is telling Noah, rain is going to come, a flood is going to come. Build this large boat in the middle of nowhere, nowhere near any water, nowhere near the sea. I mean, people must have thought that Noah was crazy. Noah himself was probably thinking he was hallucinating, but yet he was faithful to God. This is the key thing that comes out here. Sometimes we get instruction or we have tasks to do that seem stupid. They don't seem logical. But yet this is what the supervisors want, is what the boss want. Because they have a bit more knowledge or foresight, maybe that they have not shared with you, that they are planning for and projecting, and therefore they give you instruction to do your part so that you can make the vision come to success, to fruition. And the same thing with God. The Bible says God's ways are mysterious. We can't understand. We are finite, which means we are limited, and God is infinite. We can't understand the ways of God. So we are called to obey, even though we can't see the future, see the end while we are in the present. And this is what happened to Noah. And God promised him that pairs of animals and all kind of birds would come to him. He should collect pairs, but they would come to him. Which means that Noah was not going to be working alone. Well, it means that God was going to be working with him to bring these animals. And he just needed to make sure he had enough food in the boat for him and the animals and his family. In this time of pandemic, there are so many news articles, so many reporters, so many advertisements, so many instructions that it's hard to really understand or make a decision about certain things to do with COVID-19. Many people are debating whether to be vaccinated or not because they don't have enough information, or maybe they have so much information that it has overwhelmed them. In other aspects of our lives, we are confused or sometimes caught up or infected by what they call analysis by paralysis by analysis, which means we're overthinking. We don't take action because we sit down trying to break down a decision that we have to make, a situation that we have into points where we can understand, our parts where we think we can control. And when we realize we can't really control or change what's happening, then we get into despair and bargaining and stress. But we are called upon to step out in faith, and this is what Noah did. As I reflect, there are many things that I don't understand, but I am expected to do or instructed to do. And some days I question, but at the end of the day, I still follow through as much as possible and hope that through God's leading and through God's blessing that my actions will enable the situation to have a successful and a positive outcome. This is faith. Believing in something where you can't really see the future, or you don't know fully everything. In a little while, in a few chapters, we may encounter the story about Abraham who was asked to sacrifice his son. Abraham, who was asked to leave his hometown without knowing the destination that he would eventually stay. And he did obey the instructions of God. He exercised faith. And you and I, we are called to exercise our faith also. And I pray that God will help me to be more faithful. I pray that God will help me to exercise my faith even more willingly. And I pray the same for you today and tomorrow. Blessings.